Good morning. It is 7:27 a.m. on Sunday, November 18th, 2018. I'm Christiana Ellis, and I just got up. This is 5 more minutes. Because it is Sunday, it is time to continue my rewatch of Gravity Falls, this time with Episode 3, Headhunting, or Headhunters. I think it might be Headhunters. Yes, Headhunters. This episode, I think, picks up a little bit after, last time I think kind of stretched to itself to include like that message of family togetherness that I'm not sure the rest of the story had really earned yet. But this one is a bit simpler. The show in general is building a foundation of weirdness in the town before it starts trying to tell larger stories. And that's, of course, entirely appropriate for the beginning of a series. And so this one, though, does, again, continue that trend of setting up a mystery that appears to be one thing and then is revealed to be something else much zanier. And in this case, we have a nice gag with the opening where Dipper and Mabel, with Seuss's help, find the old locked up wax museum. And they're talking about, oh, these figures are so lifelike, except for this one, which we immediately recognize as Grunkle Stan, who then says, no, it's not me. It's not a wax figure. I'm your Grunkle Stan. And there's a nice bit of business where they scream when it appears that a wax figure has come to life. But then when they realize it's their actual Grunkle Stan, they scream louder and run away. It's just a little mini throwaway joke, but I found it amusing. So learning that there is this hidden wax museum, buried in the house, was definitely, it's like it felt sure, why not? This tourist trappy sort of place, that seems like the sort of thing that might have a hidden wax museum. And we get the nice business also with wax Abraham Lincoln has melted because the blinds were left open, and Stan blames wax John Wilkes Booth. Although it's interesting, given what we learn later, maybe that's actually exactly what happened, is that there was a murder. Perhaps wax Abraham Lincoln earned the ire of one of the other wax figures for some reason. Perhaps, in fact, wax John Wilkes Booth, but hard to know for sure. But Mabel's offer to sculpt a wax figure of her own is fun, and I like a lot her drawing of the original concept of a statue that's part fairy princess and part horse fairy princess. I like the concept of that, of taking something so sort of stereotypically cute and girly, but then making it sort of monstrous without, at least in tone, sacrificing the cuteness. It's a little implausible, but acceptable in a cartoon that Mabel just happens to be so good at sculpting a lifelike wax figure. Ultimately, of course, sculpting a glittery figure of their Grunkle Stan, looking all nice in a suit, standing up straight. And without getting into spoilers, for those of you who may be watching along for the first time, I will say that for people doing a rewatch, it's interesting to see Stan so enthralled with having an apparent duplicate of himself. There's another layer to it once you've seen the rest of the story. In any event, we were primed for there to be a murder mystery when the kids were beginning the episode watching Duck Detective, which is it's such a perfect illustration of the cleverness of this show that you can start with something as silly as and pun based as Duck-tective and just say like, what if there's a detective but his thing is that he's a duck and you can call him Duck-tective, and like that's funny, but it's kind of just on a very basic level. But this is where jokes either rise or sink on execution, right? Because the actual scenes of Detective where they play it straight are pretty great. Like at the end, the police guy going, "Looks like you quacked the case," and Detective is just like, "Don't patronize me." I love that. It's like that the show is not a silly show. It is like serious. That's an amazing just layer that's funnier than just the first gag of, oh, it's a detective but he's a duck. Isn't that silly? In any event, we get the grand reopening of the Wax Museum, and everybody's mad because Stan's business model was to get everybody to show up by promising free pizza, and then once they've bought a ticket, tell them there's no free pizza, and then run away. Which, and then apparently to try to do the same thing again the next day is according to his plan there. But so this is a great scene because it of course sets up that there are lots of people angry, right? And thus the murder of Wax Stan. And there's some fun in Wax Stan got waxed or whacked, I guess. And we start the mystery. There's some fun weirdness with the police where of course they're teasing Dipper for being a city boy and wanting to help, and there's another just little bit of weirdness, just the ordinary sort of thing. This is again just what I'm saying. This is one of the things that this show excels at, is taking a very simple concept and then just twisting it just a little bit all the time. And so, for example, when the deputy, the sheriff calls Dipper city boy, and then the deputy's just going, yeah, city boy, city boy, city boy. Like he's doing like some animal call or something. And it's just this like weird and off-putting, like, why are you doing that? But it's fun. And so Dipper decides he's going to solve the case no matter what they say. And of course, they immediately find a clue, footprints, each with a hole in the left side. And I'm pretty sure he says left, even though later what we see is that it's actually on the right. Oh, you know what? That's not a discontinuity. It's probably just that they're not all on the left. They have it in one or the other foot. And so, anyway, turns out, I guess Wax Sherlock Holmes has it on the left. And so the footprints lead to an axe, which is interesting because it's a red herring that we had seen the lumberjack, carrying the axe, which is, of course, what Dipper and Mabel first suspect. But we had also previously seen, standing behind the melted wax Abraham Lincoln, was wax Lizzie Borden holding an axe. So I think that it's a good mystery in the sense that even if you don't guess it, like it works. And it's also people who are savvy to the kinds of stories the show is telling might guess anyway. But there's some fun business with the kids going to the club, the biker club, to find and interrogate the lumberjack, and Mabel's fake IDs that she makes for them, gluing googly eyes and a mustache onto Dipper and having him be named. I think it was, where was this? Oh man, I had it. it was on this wiki had it, and I couldn't, and I wanted to get it right, so I was going to look it up, and now I can't find it. Oh well. But yeah, those fake IDs were ridiculous. The guy guarding the door was ridiculous with the tattoos on his forehead that say head, one on his chin that says chin, and one on the back of his neck that says neck. And then the biker that Mabel befriends and is doing the little paper thing, fortune telling thing. Silly, silly, silly. And it's also pretty silly in that, you know, the whole next clue in the case is the lumberjack just tells Dipper, oh, that's a left-handed axe. I would never use a left-handed axe. I only use right-handed axe. Therefore, it couldn't possibly be me. And it's like, I suppose what we can say is that Dipper's intuition and instinct tell him that the lumberjack was telling the truth, even though I think ordinarily taking just the suspect's word for it, something like that. Anyway, so that leads to them going around and, testing to see who's left-handed or right-handed, and that's classic, easy mystery solving stuff. But none of it works. They get embarrassed when they think it's that one fake journalist guy, Toby Determined, who proves it's not him, but with an embarrassing video of himself dancing with a cardboard cutout. And they're all embarrassed. They're dejected. No one's going to solve the mystery. Stan is still so bummed he's having a funeral, which again, another layer when you have watched the whole series. But that's where they get the breakthrough. They realize, oh, all those wax guys have the hole in one of their feet because it's where they connect to the stand. And then we learn, of course, all of the wax figures are actually cursed. So they're alive during the day, but can't move during the day, but alive at night. And they attempted to murder Stan for locking them away, and it was really only an accident that it turned out to be Wax Stan instead. And then, of course, we get the whole big fight, and it was nice having lots of these guest voices. Apparently, the real Coolio voiced Wax Coolio. The real Larry King voiced Wax Larry King, and then, of course, John Oliver, very recognizable voice as Wax Sherlock Holmes. And so we get the fight, which, has a lot of silliness, playing with the idea of fighting these wax sculptures. And then, of course, a fairly intense and exciting sword fight between Dipper and Wax Sherlock Holmes that, goes, out down the hall, up the stairs, out onto the roof. We lose the S on the sign, which is great because that bit of continuity sticks around. That the S has been knocked down. So here's where that happens, and the whole clever trick of I lured you outside, and the implausibility that the rising sun would just instantly melt them is fine, sure, it's cartoon logic, right? But yeah, so that's some pretty great stuff in this episode, and lots of just silliness, and of course we get the nice lingering mystery, ominousness of Larry King's head still in the vents. So overall, it's not an episode that really, connects too much else in terms of the broader overall arc or anything like that, but as a nice little self-contained episode, which is totally fine this early in the series, that'll do it. So next week, we will be introducing a new character who's actually been seen a couple of times in newspaper ads already, Gideon, with the episode The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. And in the meantime, I'll talk to you all tomorrow for 5 more minutes.